you're brewing on a big scale, milling 6,000 or 7,000 pounds of grain per week, you're left with a lot of grain afterwards, a lot of spent grain. Can't make any more beer with it. A lot of breweries are working on creative ways to do something with that grain, though, instead of just sending it to the landfill, because that's a lot of waste. We want to be smart about it. We want to do something wise with it. At Rebellion, we're taking our grain and we're composting. We're also giving it to local farmers to use as feed, and last but not least, I think one of the coolest and most innovative uses of our beer and our spent grain is making beer soap. Rachelle Hofmeister owns and operates Daisy Tree Soap, and she makes these really sweet artisanal beer soaps and other kinds of soap with our products. And she does a really ton of cool stuff, like special designs, thinking flowers and cupcakes, and I think I even saw something that looked like Hershey's Kisses. I've really been wanting to get her on the show for a while and get her to tell me their story and how she got into making soap. Rachelle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get too far into the beer soap and all the other soaps you do, let's drink some cherry mead.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's good.
It's good? What do you think when you first take a sip?
Let me take another sip. It's a little bit sweet, but fresh. I like it.
It clocks in at 14% ABV. You know, I'm surprised. The last time I had it, I don't think it was so effervescent. Maybe they've manipulated the carbonation up a little bit. Mead's not something I typically go after.
Oh, see, I don't want to say that I drink a lot of mead, but I drink a fair amount.
It's your go-to if
Yeah.
you're going to be choosing to drink something?
Yeah.
I like it. And I like the idea that it's made with Prairie cherries from Lumsden, over the hill orchards.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. It's a 100% Saskatchewan product. Everything that you taste in there, the honey comes from Tisdale, which I think is pretty neat.
Yep. Absolutely.
The boys roll in these big barrels that look like oil drums, and they're just packed with honey.
Oh, wow. That'd be a sight to see.
And they have warming blankets, and they'll wrap the barrels with the warming blankets and then heat them up and have them going for like a week, because the honey will be hard, right? You can't get it out of the
Right, yeah.
And they just slap on a spigot and throw it up in a winch, and it's like a big chain and just tips the barrel slowly. It's thousands of pounds of honey.
Wow, I've never seen that much honey in my life.
We have a couple videos on Facebook and YouTube about it. It's just really cool. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'll have to search for those videos.
One thing you may not know is this kind of mead is known as a melomel, which means we use a honey in it.
I did know that, actually.
There you go. But that's about the extent of my mead knowledge. I don't chase it like I chase beer. So,
Fair enough.
so how did Daisy Tree Soap get started?
Well, it's sort of been kind of like a natural evolution. Probably about maybe just over a decade ago, my mother-in-law bought me a natural soap making book for Christmas, I think. And, you know, I read through it and it sort of piqued my interest. And so I made a couple of soaps from that book, and they were okay soaps, and sort of left it at that for a couple years. And then I'm always someone to kind of keep busy. Like, I don't really like to not have anything on the go. So I was looking for a new hobby and found that book and thought, oh, well, maybe I'll give this a go again, but decided to go at it from a different angle. So I started creating all my own recipes and just finding inspiration from different places. And I was just doing it as a hobby then. But, you know, every time you make a new soap, you have more and more and more soap in your house. And eventually, what are you going to do with all this soap? So I thought, oh, well, you know, I like it so much, maybe other people would want to buy it from me, and it's working out pretty good.
What do you offer in terms of soap?
I have quite a few different fragrances for my soap. I'd say probably maybe 25 cents right now, I think I have. And I make the beer soap for Rebellion, but all of my other soaps don't have beer in them. I make them with water and coconut milk for the liquid. And then I do bar soaps. I do like molded flour soaps, cupcake soaps, cake soaps, pie soaps.
What's the difference? What sets your products apart from anyone else's?
I think it's the creativity that I do with sort of designing the soap. I don't just make a plain square bar of soap that's all one color. Not that those soaps aren't great, but that's just not my style. I sort of like everything to look pretty and fancy and kind of take you on a little bit of a journey. So, you know, I'll do, say if I just made a peony soap. So I piped a whole bunch of peony flowers and then put them on the top of the soap and then piped leaves on the top. So it sort of looks like a peony garden on the top of each bar.
So you're like a baker piping soap.
Yeah.
But you're not baking, you're
right.
making soap.
Yeah, actually I watch a lot of cake making videos on YouTube to get inspiration and to learn how to, you know, which piping tip I need for this sort of application and things like that. So
I was about to ask you, what inspires your ideas for the soap? I saw cupcakes at one point. How did you make those?
Well, just like how you would basically make a cupcake for eating. Except I use soap instead of cake batter and icing.
How did you get the piece, like the muffin top and the...
Oh, well, you make your soap batter, and then when you make it, it's very liquid at first, and then I just sort of play the waiting game until it sets up hard enough, and then I throw it in a piping bag and pipe it just like you would icing.
Where can people find your products besides the tap room?
Besides the tap room, they can go onto either my Instagram page or my Facebook page at Daisy Tree Soap, and they can order through there. I also have a few products, I believe, at En Vogue Day Spa in Regina, and there's a coffee shop in Melfort that sells some of my products. Not really a lot of soaps there. They mostly sell my bubble bars and bath bombs.
What the hell's a bubble bar?
It's solid bubble bath.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh, really? Oh, they're so much fun. And it's so much easier to use and less packaging than a regular, bubble bath. So it's just a sort of like a hard, solid puck, but not so hard that you can't break a chunk off it. So you break a chunk off the bubble bar, and I like to put it in like a sieve and then put the sieve underneath your running water. And then it just creates copious amounts of big fluffy bubbles for you.
So you can grab a book, fill a glass full of mead, and just enjoy the bubble bath.
Absolutely.
Is it about spoiling yourself?
Always.
I am a kind of guy, I have some allergies. I have to be very careful with the types of soaps that I purchase because I could get like a rash on my skin.
Yep.
Do you have something in your soap that could make somebody break out in a rash, or is it all natural?
It's all natural.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I use all natural oils and butters in my soap. There's no chemicals, well, other than the fragrance oil, but all of the fragrance oils that I use are have been tested to be body safe, and I'm well below the safe usage rates always, so there's never been any issues. I have lots of customers actually that have psoriasis and eczema that use my products, and they've told me that it's actually helped their conditions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that was a possibility.
Yeah. For example, my oatmeal milk and honey soap, I use real oatmeal in it, and that really seems to help people with eczema particularly.
What is it about oatmeal? I've heard rumors about the fantastic nature of oatmeal in soap.
Well, I don't really know the science behind the oatmeal, but I do know that oatmeal in itself is very soothing and calming to the skin, so it really helps to reduce inflammation, and it really gives a nice, light, gentle exfoliation as well, which is really great.
Can people come to you and make special requests for soap?
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
And how does that work? They just send you a message on Instagram and
Yep.
like, hey, I want to make peach ginger soap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For instance, I had the Weyburn synchronized swimming team contact me. I think maybe it was last Christmas to make sort of mermaid themed bars for people on the synchro team. So that was fun. So I got to play with, making mermaid tails and putting them on the bars and making everything all glittery. And so that was great.
What's your favorite soap memory? I'm sure you got a few.
Oh, well, I have a few bad memories. Things don't always go as planned. But my favorite soap memory is actually probably when I first got started with soap. I was telling you about I got that soap book from my mother-in-law. And one of the, I guess, recipes that we used involved rendering your own animal fat and then using it in soap. So me and my mom and my aunt got some boar fat from someone that we know that has a boar farm and rendered it down in the garage. And looking back, it was a great memory because we had so much fun. But while it was happening, I don't know if you've ever smelled fat rendering.
Is it pretty bad?
It's pretty bad. And you have to do it 3 or 4 times to make sure that everything's nice and pure. There's no little bits left in the fat. But that is probably my all-time favorite memory just because it was something so completely out of the box. I, really didn't know what I was doing. But, it turned out really good in the end, so...
What is going on with soap? Why do you need fat in the soap?
Well, a lot of people are quite confused about what real soap is nowadays because when you go to the grocery store, the soaps that are for sale there are not real soap. They're actually synthetic detergent bars. So in order to make real soap, you need fats or fatty acids, to be more specific, and sodium hydroxide.
Sodium hydroxide?
Sodium hydroxide, yeah. And then you mix those two together and they create a chemical reaction, which is called saponification. And so the oils and the sodium hydroxide, also known as lye, mix together, and then that's how you create soap.
Does it take a really, really long time? From start to finish, how long would it take to create a bar of soap?
Okay, so if I were just to make just a plain Jane bar of soap, it would probably take me 15 minutes.
Okay.
But then once you've poured the soap, it has to set. So that usually takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours so that it's firm enough so that you can take it out of your mold and then cut it into bars. And then once it's cut into bars, the soap has to cure. And what the curing process does is it removes the water out of the soap. So the water evaporates out. That creates a harder bar of soap. And you also want to give it some time. So I usually, as a rule of thumb, like to let my soaps cure for anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. And as they're curing, not only is the water evaporating out, so it's becoming a harder bar, which is good because then it lasts longer in the shower for you, but it also becomes milder, more bubbly, more creamy, just an all-over better soap experience. And that has to do with the crystalline structure of the actual soap molecules themselves. So when you first make them, they're sort of all jumbled up out of control. And as they sit and cure, the molecules all sort of line up in nice little specific packages.
That's some really specific chemistry. You've done a lot of thinking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I do also have a biology degree.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. I had another question lined up and you just blew my mind about fats.
Sorry.
And solubles. Oh, I know what it was. So does anyone ever tease you about Fight Club and how he's rating fat people's liposuction fat?
Aha, Peter. Richest, creamiest fat in the world. Fat of the land.
Have you been talking to my husband?
No.
Yeah, when I first started making soap, that was always the big joke.
You're going to pull a Tyler Durden?
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, no, that's just never, ever going to happen. It's just, no.
What's your plan for the future for Daisy Tree Soap? Take over the world, stay in Saskatchewan, be 100% local? What's your plan?
Well, I don't think I would want to take over the world with soap. That just seems like way too much work. At the moment, I'm perfectly fine with keeping it local. But, you know, in the next couple years, I'm thinking of, you know, maybe trying to go maybe more into Alberta and Manitoba. So sort of take over Western Saskatchewan maybe, or Western Canada rather.
That's cool. So I almost let you off the hook, but you said you had one bad story from soap making.
Oh, I have way more than one. Things don't always go as planned. It's always kind of a little bit of a crapshoot when you're trying out a new design or a new fragrance or most of my colorants that I use for the soap, it's called mica. So it's a type of natural stone. But full disclosure, the micas that I use in my soap are synthetically derived, and that's just because can be a lot of lead found in naturally occurring micas. So by getting the synthetic ones, everything's safe. And
you don't want to be washing with lead.
No, absolutely not. That would
turn you into the Mad Hatter.
That would not be good for my sales. So sometimes the micas that I use can morph and change color in soap. Actually, last night I just poured some soaps to make some dragonfly embeds, and I got this new, it's called Peacock Mica. It's just this beautiful blue-green shimmery color. So I thought, oh great, I got this new mica, I'll use it, it'll be perfect dragonfly color. Well, it completely disappeared. I now have white soap.
What are you going to do?
Well, lucky thing is I didn't just use the Peacock Mica. I also used like a dark bluey purple and a silver and a purple. So
are you going to go back to those mica guys and be like, hey, what the heck?
I already left a bad review on their website.
Don't mess with the soap lady.
Well, you know, because usually that's all listed on the website, you know, is not stable in cold processed soap. That's another thing. There is different types of soap you can make. So I make cold processed soap. There's also hot processed soap. And then there's also something else called melt and pour or glycerin soap that you can make.
And you do cold process.
I do cold process.
It didn't play nice with your process.
No, it did not. I was not happy.
Rachelle, I'm going to include a bunch of links to your Daisy Tree soap. I'm going to include a bunch of pictures. Rebels, you need to come down and check out her soaps in our tap room. They're hot sellers. Sometimes it's tough for us to keep it in stock because it's so popular. And I really want to thank you for tuning in this week. If you want to find the latest news about Rebellion Brewing, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Untapped. And as always, thank you for joining the Rebellion.